Hello and welcome to another Supplier Diversity and Small Business Economic Impact Report. I'm your host, Jamie White. Um, as always, thank you so much for joining. Um, if you enjoy the series, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment on the video, and share with your friends, family, and anyone else you think would be um, who you think this content would be appropriate for. Now let's go ahead and let's get into it. For this weekly report, it's really just going to be solely focused on U.S. economic report for fourth quarter. So as I mentioned last week, this was going to be the really big news for this week, which is the reports are coming out and they have come out. And as you can see with the first on the first page or the first article that I have up, it's U.S. economy cooled as GDP grew at 2.6% rate in fourth quarter. Uh, that's actually really good. If you were following last week, then you know that there was a lot of reports coming out saying that it was going to drop significantly, very in the low 2%. So this coming in at 2.6% is actually really good. No, I mean obviously that's still a drop from the previous reports, or I'm sorry, previous quarters. However, that's still pretty good based on the expectations, which were a lot worse than what they ended up being. In particular, when it comes to the government shutdown that happened towards the end of the year or towards the end of that quarter as well. So as you can see, it shows you the last what 4-ish years, 4 or 5 years, um, and this 2.6% is about the average, or median, if you will, when we're coming into there. Not, I don't know if it's the exact median, but just kind of looking at the chart, it falls pretty comfortably in the middle, maybe towards the higher end there. But uh, again, this is better than expected news. Still a little bit slower, but I mean, I feel like that's what everyone's pretty much predicting now. That 4.1% that we got in the second quarter was a huge anomaly. It was right before, again, it was right before the tariffs went in, so a lot of people were purchasing a lot of products before those tariffs hit. Um, so that 4.1%, while high, it was an anomaly, and it seems like we're coming back down to earth around that 2 to 3%. Now, what does this mean for overall? Now I want to show you two articles, and I'm going to show you a third article that's going to, I guess, be the deciding factor. But as you can see, according to the NPR, the U.S. economy grew 2.9% in 2018. Now, I did find another one, Town Hall. I'm not too familiar with them. However, they mentioned that the growth rate was around 3.1%, and where they found it was, I believe, the White House Twitter. Let's see, White House CEA Twitter. So that's where they're saying that they nailed the forecast of 3.1%. Not exactly sure where they're getting this piece, um, but for the NPR, uh, essentially what they're saying is that it just came under the 2.9% for the entire year of 2018, which again it's pretty good. Uh, for all of you people who are love to compare administrations, the Obama administration was somewhere around that 1 to 2%, lower 2%, I believe, on average. Well, maybe mid 2%. Let me not say that. But on average, on a year to year, so this 2.9% is definitely on the higher end. For the past almost 10 years now, it might actually be the highest in the past 10 years, which is good. Our economy is growing. That's what we should want. Hopefully. But obviously, with regardless of the 2.9%, one of the couple of big questions here are, the first big question is what's going to happen in the first quarter of this year. Now that the slowdown is pretty much in full effect here, we're most likely not gonna hit those 4% that we saw last year. So now it's kind of, now that we're in that slowing down effect, how slow will we go? Um, and kind of where we end up by the end of the year. In addition, one of the things that, and I feel like I do need to state this. One of the big questions is, even though we hit that 2.9%, would we have been higher if we had not instituted tariffs? So I think that's more of a question that we're going to be facing, 10, 20 years down the line. when we're looking at the Trump administration, like what could have happened. And I mean, all administrations go through this as well. Trump will be no different. But what could have happened had we not done the tariffs, which is pretty interesting. I think that in particular when it comes to China and trade negotiations, I do think the tariffs are good. It's kind of putting China's feet to the fire. But maybe in regards to like a Canada or Europe, which we hit with tariffs, maybe those might not have been as good of an idea. But moving forward, as you can see, the 2.6% growth rate. And most people, again, last week I kind of mentioned the whole people were in that dire. We're going to hit that 1.8%, 1.6% for the first quarter of this year. I think that those expectations are going to be tapered out now that we've seen that we hit the 2.6% in the fourth quarter. I think those estimates are going to raise a little bit. Back to 3.1%. So the Trump goal was around one of the things that in particular, I do definitely remember in the Republican primary, they were talking about was getting the economy to have a 3 to 4% growth rate each year. Let's be clear here. So each year, last year that didn't happen. This year with the 3.1% that they're touting, this does hit the mark that they were pushing for. So if they can continue this moving into this year, which is going to be a very big challenge. We will see, how this goes. Um, this also talks about kind of the taxes because one of the big uh, pieces that's going on right now, big conversations is, are the rich paying their fair share of taxes? So if you're curious, I'll just go ahead and I'll state this because it's in the article. It's pretty interesting, whichever side you're on. It says here that the top 1% pays about 30.5% of America's taxes. The top 10% pays about 70% of America's taxes. Um, so whether you believe that should be higher or lower is up to you. But I just figured that'd be pretty interesting if you're curious. So what this all leads to say is, and I think we're all pretty much aware of this, but I'll say it. March is going to be a huge month for the world economy, right? I mean, pretty obvious, but it, it is important, right? Now that the government shutdown has been pretty much solved for right now, we're no longer in a temporary solution. We have a longer term solution in place. Now we're going to have to see what's going to happen in March. I mean, you know, the terrible, horrible estimates about the economy have been wrong. The great, fantastic estimates about the economy have been wrong. I think last year they were looking at the 3.4, 3.5%. So they're wrong. So both sides have been wrong, and we're pretty much somewhere in the middle. So now the question becomes, what's going to happen in March? Some people, obviously, the people who think that economy is going to do really well are still pushing the, hey, we hit around the 3% mark, so we're going to continue that. And obviously, the people have an argument, especially with the government shutdown, to say no, we're going to be a lot lower because of that. So we'll see what happens, but definitely want to take a look at the estimates right now for the U.S. So as you can see, uh, so first up here, it shows you kind of that 2018, 2019, 2020, the World Bank estimates for the world economy. So last year, and this is why I said the 2.9%. I said the third article would kind of be the the determining factor here. And so according to the World Bank, the U.S. hit 2.9% for 2018. Now, if you're huge America first, you probably don't care and don't have any credence to this, which is unfortunate. But if that's how you take it, that's fine. But well, actually, it is what it is. But for this, as you can see, the 2.9%, which is why I'm going to use that 2.9% or say around the 3%, because if they're backing that 2.9%, World Bank is pretty legitimate, so we can use that. But their estimates right now are 2.5% for this year, 2019, and then 1.7% and then 1.6%, which are really big drops. And it's also very interesting because that's going to happen after the next presidential election. So let's say Trump doesn't get reelected and a Democrat gets elected, I can 100% see this dropping to 1.7%, and Republicans saying, "Oh, that's because we elected a Democratic president, so that's why our economy is so terrible." Which, in fact, that's not really the case. As you can see here, it's just the typical slowdown that all economies deal with, and it's going on for everyone from the EU to the to China, which is expecting a drop, to even the world overall. So we are expecting a drop, and regardless of who's going to be president the next 3 4 years, we're going to see a slowdown. But people don't care about facts, so but if you do, this is what we're going to expect. Um, Last up, as you guys know, I like to end with something pretty interesting article that you may want to take a look at. For this one, top 50 best cities to open a restaurant. Don't mess up with me. Thank you. So as you can see, let's just head all the way down to the bottom because that's what you really want, the list. But it talks about things such as like locations, and obviously, well, we can look at well, you can actually see right here. So it talks about location, income for median income for those cities as well, competitions. So you can pretty much kind of get a glimpse here, and as I'm showing you this, workforce as well has been included in term to determine who is or what cities are the best to open a restaurant. So the first one, if you can't see, is Arlington, Virginia. Number two is Ann Arbor, Michigan. Three is DC. Four is San Francisco, which is interesting, and then five is Atlanta, Georgia. So, and then I might as well list the next the top 10 as well. Six and seven are actually both in Massachusetts. It's Cambridge and then Boston. Eight is Plano, Texas. Nine and 10 are in Washington. So Seattle, Washington, and Bellevue, Washington. I'm not familiar with that, but as you can see, there it's not just one area. We got a couple in the south, a couple in the East Coast, DC, and then three out west. So I think the moral of the story is there's a lot of options to open a restaurant. But if you're curious about the list, definitely check out the link that will be included in the description. So with that being said, another great week. I appreciate all the support as always. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Don't be afraid to comment on the video. Like if you like what we're talking about, subscribe, and we will be back next week. So thank you for your time and have a great day.